Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast. Each week, we interview the best and brightest in physical therapy, wellness, and entrepreneurship. We give you cutting-edge information you need to live your best life, healthy, wealthy, and smart. The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be used as personalized medical advice. And now, here's your host, Dr. Karen Litzy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Karen Litzy, and today's episode is brought to you by Net Health. Net Health is helping you maintain strong relationships with your patients through the Redoc Patient Portal. It provides a secure line of communication between you and your patients. You can use it for video conferencing, for telehealth, secure messaging, share documents and photos, and your patients can view health information and appointments with 24/7 access to their health information, including discharge instructions, home exercise programs, and educational materials. It's secure, it's on-demand access without phone calls and voice messages. To learn more, contact them at redoc@nethealth.com. So a big thanks to Net Health for sponsoring today's episode. And now on to the episode. Dr. Jenna Kantor is back, and she is interviewing Dr. Javier Carlin. He is the clinic director at Renewal Rehab in Largo, Florida. He is originally from Miami, graduated with his doctoral degree in physical therapy at Florida International University, and is a certified strength and conditioning specialist through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. He has always had a passion for health and fitness, and his mission in life is to help you get back to doing the things that you love pain-free. His goal is to inspire people to live healthier, happier, more fulfilling lives through simple and effective wellness principles. Proper nutrition coupled with a great exercise routine and good sleeping habits works wonders in how you feel inside and out. He enjoys spending time with his family. He loves being by the water, either soaking up the sun on the beach or on a boat, and he's an avid traveler. So on this episode, Jenna and Javier, they discuss the difference between nosy curiosity and coaching curiosity, how to frame questions to dive deeper into conversations, verbal and nonverbal signals to watch for during client interviews, and how your clinic environment can help develop deeper client relationships. So a big thank you to Jenna and to Javier, and everyone enjoy this week's episode.
Hello. This is Jenna Kantor with Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart. I am here with Javier Carlin. Thank you so much for coming on, Javi. It is an absolute joy. Javi is a physical therapist. He runs a clinic. What is the name of your clinic that you run?
It's Renewal Rehab.
Renewal Rehab. In what area, though, of Florida? Because you're part of a chain.
Yeah, it's in Largo, Florida, so close to Clearwater.
Yes. I feel like the Key Largo, Montego, baby, wanna we go, Jamaica, other Florida. I feel like that's part of a song, right? Well, Javi, thank you so much for coming on. You also do have an online course. What's your online course that you do?
So it's a life coaching academy for healthcare professionals where I teach healthcare professionals how to become life coaches and get their first clients.
Freaking awesome. And perfect timing for that right now with everything Corona. Thank you so much for coming on during this time and giving us both something to do.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm honored.
I wanted to bring Javi in because he has a skill, a magic skill that if you don't know him or you do know him, now you know. He is a supreme listener. The first thing we did when we got on this call is he just asked me questions, just to listen what's going on. And of course I try to emulate it, but I'm not as good at him. Like I asked a few questions and I didn't deep dive as well as he does. So I want to dive into his brain and with this pen that I am holding, and I'm going to part the hairs, get through the skull, into the cerebrum. And so we can really deep dive into how your brain works when you are learning more about others through the art of listening. So first of all, thank you for having that skill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I honestly had no idea I had it until someone brought it up. And then looking into it's kind of one of those things where, I guess you have a skill, but you don't really know it. And then you try to dissect okay, what exactly am I doing?
Yeah.
Right. So, leading up to this interview, I'm like, okay, let me actually think about this and reflect on what it is that I do, what is it that I don't do, so that I can actually, hopefully provide some value throughout the next few minutes.
Yeah, I would love to know. I think I want to just go into our conversation even before hitting the record button. What was in your brain when you first came on? Was it, I want to know what's going on? I'm just honestly, like, what was in that led you to start the conversation that way?
That's a great question. So to be honest, I mean, I haven't seen you in a long time. We haven't spoken in a while.
I know.
And so I really, did want to know what's been going on in your life. I've seen you, post on Facebook, but really had no idea what it is that you've been working on. And I always know you're up to something. So I really had a deep desire
with you.
Yes, I really had a deep desire to really find out exactly what you've been working on and the people that you've been impacting. Just to know. I don't know. It's like it's just natural for me. So
you're like a curious George.
Curious, exactly. Yes.
Do you think that is a big base of it? It's just true curiosity.
Yes, I think it's curiosity, and I definitely curiosity. I'm always, really in tune with what people are doing, because I feel like it just, looking deeper at it, I feel like I come from a place of always wanting to learn more about someone, deeply understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, because I think there's a lot to say about that, and it's just very similar with healthcare professionals, in the sense that we're working with patients all day and we're really trying to figure out, what's going on and where they want to get to, and understanding really what they truly want the outcome to be when it comes to us helping them throughout, our physical therapy and other rehab professions. And it's no different. Like that's the same curiosity that I have when I, am serving patients, I have with people in general. So I do believe that curiosity is a big thing, and having a curiosity that's not a nosy curiosity, but more of like a coaching curiosity, and really figuring out what's behind the words that someone is saying.
What do you mean by nosy versus coaching? Would you mind going into more depth on that?
So yeah, absolutely. So I believe, and this is, there's a clear, when you're having a conversation with a friend, you're not really thinking about all these things. And then, diving deeper into the coaching side of things, you start to think about these specific things. So when it comes to a nosy curiosity, there's always a story that someone's telling you, and sometimes that story isn't even related to what the person is actually dealing with. So people use the story to kind of let's see how I can put this, to separate themselves from the interaction that you're having, because sometimes it's tough for us to have conversations with people and really get deep down into our own emotions. So the story around it, as someone who's dove into life coaching, the story is actually at times something to distract people from that. And sometimes what I mean by nosy curiosity is that we actually get involved in that story, which has nothing to do with why the person is talking to you in the first place.
So it's like the superficial kind of thing.
Superficial thing, right? So instead of being nosy into the actual story and talking about the people that were in their story, we want to, kind of separate that from the actual person and have a conversation about them and why that situation affected them as a person, not, bringing everyone else. So that's what I mean by nosy. Nosy is trying to get involved in their story and, getting involved in not just their emotions, but everyone else's emotions and why they hate their boss and why this and why that. So it's really separating that from what they're telling you.
I like that.
Or trying to tell you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you just keep talking? Because I don't even know what question to ask next, just because I'm really taking that in right now. Just tell me something else more about listening, because I know you came prepared. Just because when you're going into this, you just opened up a world of how much I don't know, just from even that concept. So I feel a bit, honestly, at a loss of words for it, because just even that concept of the superficial versus diving deep down in, I guess my next question would be then, when you deep dive in and you're doing those investigative questions to really find out what really is the core of what's going on, how do you phrase your questions because you're probably going to get to some real personal stuff. How do you do it delicately with them? So that way, as you are deepening your listening, you're not invading their space.
That's a beautiful question. So I think a lot of it comes before, before you dive into that. So, you've heard of obviously building rapport, building trust. And at the end of the day, if someone's coming to you for help, it typically comes with the idea that, okay, I'm going to have to, if I want someone to help me, then I have to open up to them. Otherwise you can't really help someone.
Yeah.
So I think, it comes with that understanding. And I think a lot of it also comes from coming from a place of neutrality. So not tying your emotions and your ideas and your thoughts and your beliefs and your opinions to what the person is telling you. So thinking
That's
about
hard. That's hard.
Yes.
That's very hard. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And that's where, that's when someone can actually feel that you're trying to either push them in a direction that they don't want to go, or that's where that nosy type of, feeling comes in, where they're like, oh, like, why are you asking me that? But I think the second thing is whenever you make whenever you make a statement that's more of an observation or a fact, as opposed to, something that's a bit more emotional, you want to always end with a question. So as an example, a question. So after every statement, you want to end with a question saying, hey, what's true about that? Or what comes to your mind when you hear that? Those two questions allow you to kind of pull yourself from, hey, listen, what comes to your mind when I say that, as opposed to I'm saying this because, hey, you should do this or you should do that, or that came out like pretty that came out as if instead of saying, hey, you sound angry, right?
Yeah.
It's saying, okay, like what, when I heard that, it sounded like there was some anger in that. What's true about that? And now you're giving them the ability to respond back to that. So now it's more of an observation as opposed to kind of like telling them or letting them know, hey, you sound angry, right? There's more emotion to that. That's more. It's more of like, hey, you're coming at me now. That's when someone can get a bit defensive or feel like their space has been invaded. But when you just state a fact and then ask them a question, it makes it a lot easier to have that conversation moving forward. I hope does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Okay.
That does.
Okay.
Big time. It actually connects. It brings me back to a conversation I had with my brother. I'm going to go a little deep on my own thing. I remember my older brother and I don't have a good relationship, but this is back in high school. And there's a point to this. That's not just about me, even though if anyone knows me, I love talking about myself. But I remember there was one evening where he was more of a night owl than me. And we started talking. It was a rare time. It was a rare opportunity where you just get into a deep conversation about life and anything. And we were already at least an hour or something in, and I'm just feeling my eyes shut on me. And I remember going through this, like, I have two options to continue this conversation with him, and force myself to stay awake. And I felt like it was a very vital conversation. There was this little thing that was like, if I cut this off, it will be cutting off something big in our relationship. Me not being here to be part and present when he's open and being open to talking to me, for me to be able to hear what he has to say. Do you think that, and it has over time now, we don't have we have more solidly not a strong relationship. Do you think there are conversations like that exist, that if you are not present and listening and you push it away too soon, it could actually cause damage to that relationship long term?
150%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's tough. it's, diving back into exactly, what you were feeling and how you're feeling, and why perhaps that conversation wasn't of maybe at that time of interest, or something that, like you were saying, you felt like maybe falling asleep during the conversation. There's a lot to it that we could dissect, really. But yes, I do agree with that. I think what happens in many conversations, especially, looking into it even deeper, it's, when people make offhand comments, short little statements in between the conversation that you're having, most people are quick to kind of just let that pass. But that's what the person truly deep inside is actually feeling and really wants to talk about. Everything else is just surface level. So, exploring those offhand comments goes a very long way. And that's when people really know that you're truly focusing on them and listening to them. And that's where you get into those deeper conversations. Now, again, back to the story that you just shared. There's so many different factors when it comes to that, but I definitely do believe that can have a massive impact on the relationship moving forward, and with anyone, with your patients, your clients. People remember how you made them feel, and that really, really sticks. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys can't see me, but I'm like, yes, amen. I feel like I just went to church on that. But it's true. It's how you make them feel. So then bringing this back to the clinic, you could have, say, a busy time. A lot of people, a lot of patients and everything, and your time is running short. How do you cater to these conversations if you see that there needs to be more time, or if you do need to cut it shorter? How do you continue to feed that relationship, that trust, so you can find an opportunity maybe later to spend more time listening to them if you don't have it right then?
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor and be right back with Javier's answer.
This episode is brought to you by Net Health, helping you maintain strong relationships with your patients. The ReDoc patient portal provides a secure line of communication between you and your patients. Conduct virtual visits and have follow-up conversations with your patients via secure messaging when it's convenient for you. Patients have 24/7 secure, on-demand access to their therapy health information without phone calls and voice messages. Video conferencing for telehealth, secure messaging, share documents and photos, and view health information and appointments. To learn more, contact them at redoc@nethealth.com.
Yes, that's a great question. I think so. There's several different ways to do it. I'll speak to more because there's a tactical way of doing it, and that's with I guess you can call it nurturing the relationship through other methods with text messaging, emails, and all those things, right? Where you feel that connection with someone and continue to develop that relationship over time through sometimes automated systems and or where you're actually just sending a mass email once a week, where it can still actually help to build a relationship, right?
Yeah.
But on the other front, with our clinic specifically, the way that we do that, because we do work as a team, because we are, we do have the insurance-based model, so we do see several patients an hour. Because of the team that we have, where for us specifically, it's a PT, 2 PTAs, and 2 techs. Once we have a fully established clinic and got into that point, that is where the PTAs that we have actually step in to treat the other patients that are there. And if I notice, because there's a lot of so when it comes to listening, there's when people say active listening, what active listening really is not just listening to the words that are coming out of someone else's mouth, but also paying attention to everything else that's going on, the unsaid, right? You really want to explore the unsaid, and that comes with body language, visual cues, body posture, the way someone says something, their tone, their pace, right? And obviously, as you get to know someone, you really get to feel how they feel when they're having a great day and when they're having a not so good day. So, not letting, again, kind of like not letting offhand comments go. You don't want to let those the visual kind of feedback that you're getting, you don't want to let that go either. So when you do see someone that's in that specific state where they might be disappointed, angry, upset, frustrated, you want to make sure that you address that right there and then. And the way that we do that specifically at the clinic is we take them into the evaluation room, and we can do that because of the fact that we work as a team. Everyone on the team knows exactly what every single patient should be doing and knows them at a deep level. So I could actually step out and have that deeper conversation with whoever needs it at that time.
That's
And
great.
we'll sit for, 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long we need, really, to explore what is going on at a deeper level so that we can ensure that they don't drop off. Because typically what happens is that when you just kind of let that go, that's where you get a patient calling to cancel. And then it happens not just once, but twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then they ghost you. So that's how we handle that situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's great. That's a really important thing to put into place. So for clinics alone, how would you, if they don't have something set up, and say they're a busy clinic and they don't have something set up where people could have the time to necessarily sit and listen, how could they start implementing that in order to improve the relationships with their patients and them they're showing up consistently?
That's a great question. And I think there's so many variables depending on how the clinic is set up and ran.
Yeah.
I believe that, I think as, obviously as physical therapists ourselves, I think our first instinct is to always like go to like the physical. All right, like you're feeling this way today. Okay, don't worry. Like we're going to make you feel better after this. It's like, wait a second. Well, maybe the person, for those initial 30 minutes, they don't even need, therapeutic exercises or whatever it is that we're prescribing them for that day. Maybe they just need to have a conversation, right? For 20, 30 minutes and just to let it all out. And those 30 minutes of actually just talking to them, just because we can't bill for that time, technically, that's going to be the difference maker between them actually seeing the results long-term and dropping off. So it's making that clear distinction and deciding, okay, what this person needs at this point in time is not, to do core exercises or to get manual therapy. What they need is just to just have a conversation.
Absolutely.
About what's going on in their world, because ultimately that's what matters the most to them. So
yeah, true.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that was great. It was
okay.
It was beautiful. I just want you to know. Okay, so then during this time, the coronavirus, what has your clinic been exploring on a listening standpoint with the switch to virtual to try to fit those needs? Like, I don't know. It's kind of an open-ended question for you to interpret this however you like.
Yeah. So I think, it's been, to be honest, it's been a challenge. And the biggest reason why is, knowing that telehealth existed for the last year, 2 years, et cetera. And has been existing. We didn't really make a push to have that as an additional service. So what's happening now is that it's like physical therapy, right? A lot of people still don't know what physical therapy is. And it's not something that they necessarily want. It's just something that they need, right? So same thing with telehealth. It's something that, now we're adding 2 things that people don't know, which is physical therapy and telehealth. And now we're, most people are now, trying to figure out, okay, how can we push telehealth on our patients without, having any previous conversation about this. So that's where the challenge lies, is that you have people who are, who the ones who do know what physical therapy is, who are coming in, and, when they think of PT, they have this, they have this picture in their mind because it's what they've been doing for the past, X amount of weeks. And now you're trying to get them to jump onto a different type of platform to provide a service that in their minds can only be done in person. So what we've started to do is we've started to offer complimentary telehealth visits. So the first visit is completely free, 15 to 20 minutes in length, and offering that first, giving the patient an opportunity to experience what it's like and showing them how valuable it can be. And then from there, deciding to make an offer for them to actually purchase, X amount of visits. And typically, your time is your time. So you want to typically, charge the same that you would a a actual in-person session. But
Right.
because this is so new, we have decided to, offer it at a, very, very low rate. So that barrier to entry is a lot less, especially in this time where, people's finances might not be at their all-time high, or at least they're I'm not going to say that, but maybe they're a little bit more reserved with what they're spending their money on. People are still spending money, but with what they're spending their money on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's how we're handling that now. A lot of constant communication through text messages, emails,
Listening.
and just having conversations, just listening. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to add in regards to the art of listening that you think is a key point for people to take home with them?
Yeah. So I think the last thing, and this is actually a quote from Stephen Covey, and I have it here because I didn't want to butcher it, but basically he says, most people do not listen with the intent to learn and understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They are either speaking or preparing to speak. So that's it.
That's great. That's a really
that
good
basically
quote.
Sums it up. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen Covey, so much for that, for your guest quote appearance.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Javi. How can people find you on social media? What are your addresses on Facebook, Instagram, all the above?
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm at Dr. Javier Carlin. So Dr. Javier Carlin. On Facebook, Javier Carlin. So you can just look me up there and friend request me. I do have the Life Coaching Academy for Healthcare Professionals Facebook community. So you can always jump into that as well, with a podcast coming out soon. And I think that's it. If you want to send me a text message and just link up, my phone number is 305-323-0427. I'm always down to have a conversation. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. And if you guys want to see or hear him in action, if you're in the group or even in his future podcast, you'll see from the way he interviews and speaks with people, how he really uses his curiosity and deep dives and learns more and listens so well. Just watching him in action alone, aside from just even experiencing it yourself, you'll be like, oh, wow, he's very good at this. I feel very listened to.
Thank you so much, Jenna.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on, everyone jumping in. Thank you for joining and have a great day.
Thank you, Jenna and Javier, for a great interview. And of course, a big thank you to our sponsor, Net Health. Net Health now has the Redoc Patient Portal, which provides a secure line of communication between you and your patients. Conduct virtual visits and have follow-up conversations with your patients via secure messaging when it's convenient for you. Patients have 24/7 secure on-demand access to their therapy health information without phone calls and voice messages. If you want to find out more about this, go to redoc@nethealth.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great couple days.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the podcast at podcast.healthywealthysmart.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media.